The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
It's the Success Show. I'm your host in this show. My name is Gehad. Just a bit of a recap of the idea behind this show is that we bring in inspiring guests to share their stories and their journeys to success, what they do and how they've achieved it. In my personal work as an educational practitioner, in personality traits, I analyze individuals' personalities using the model of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I use examples of the Sahabas or the companions, as well as the Prophet's wives, who hold the same personalities as the individual in order to serve as their role models. Similarly, in this show, what I want to do is to bring in role models of today who have inspiring stories to share with us and their journeys behind their success. I want this to be an inspiration for all of us, inshallah. So this brings me to introduce my guest today, but just to let you know that this is a pre-recorded show, so we won't be able to take any calls or questions today, but please feel free to text or WhatsApp those. Or if you have any comments about the show, on 07779 481822. Alternatively, you can also comment on Facebook. So our guest today is Samina, who coaches teens to overcome anxiety and step into fearless confidence. Samina works with the teens and their families using therapy and coaching so they can have a strong, fearless voice and rock solid self-belief. Besides discussing Samina's work today, Samina will also be sharing her story about the inner work that she has done herself to get to that stage and starting her second business as well. Samina, it's a pleasure to have you with us today on the show. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm well. Thank you very much. Alhamdulillah, it's good to be here. I was just sharing how I forgot it's Monday morning because we're in summer holidays and there's a lack of structure, etc. But yeah, it's good to be here. I'm excited about our chat today.
Yeah, good to have you, and I'm looking forward, inshallah, to having that great chat with you. So perhaps if we can start with talking a little bit about, because you work with teens and their families through coaching and therapy. So if you can tell us more about this work and more about yourself, please.
Well, you know what? It started way before then in the way that I've been an educator in UK schools for around 24 years. And so I've spent my life, if you will, with teens, seeing the stresses that they go through in the classroom, really worrying about them, their friendships, their grades, what's my mom, my dad gonna say about these things, meeting obviously their families in parents' evenings, and so many stories to share. And that's really informed my coaching and the therapy programs because I can see where it is that they're lacking. So I guess I did all of that. And then, moving, why did I retrain? So many people ask me, don't leave the teaching profession, don't do it. And, I did it in steps because like you mentioned, I have two businesses and I've kind of cooled down on the first one I set up. And, I went into online tutoring. I think COVID hit people in lots of ways, didn't it? And it definitely showed us as teachers, and I was the head of science then, that actually, do we need to learn in person? Could we do it online? So that really opened up that business for me. And that cut out, that just gave me, as an entrepreneurs, and this, Jihad, that it just gives you that flexibility, doesn't it? That freedom. And having a family myself, I'm a mother of three. I think so. So obviously they're all getting older now. The oldest is 21. And then the youngest is just turned 15 this month. So they they keep me on my toes as well. But with all that background, then pivoting to that first business and tutoring online, I realized that, wow, this is amazing. On a side note, we don't pay teachers enough, right? So I earned way more money than I would as the head of science, slogging my guts out. And look, it's not about money. I loved that job. It was, it is a vocation, I think, teaching. You do it because you really love the impact that you're making. But I think I just realized after a while that actually my impact is limited. There's something missing here. And the reason why I say that is because I call it the missing link. That so many of these children, these teens, they had amazing families, right? Not all of them, of course, right? There was a lot of cultural sort of bullying and prejudice and comparing and all that stuff that I have to deal with now. But that was there. But a lot of these teams, they should have had everything they needed for success. All the ingredients were there, right? Supportive family, some of them had tuition, were really good, schools, but they still held themselves back. They still didn't believe in themselves that they could
mm,
actually do it. And I think that's where I got really curious and really interested and really excited that, hold on a sec, if we could help them, the teens, do the inner work, then that's it.
mm,
Their future is open. They can go for gold. They can have it. And
mm,
that thing about self-sabotage. And I guess we always think that about adults and about young children. We think, no, 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 they can believe in themselves. But
mm,
how will they believe in themselves if they've never been taught how to?
mm,
Right? But we don't do that in schools. We don't do that. It's not part of our training. Even the pastoral care, etc., and trying to help them with their mental health and things, it's so limited. It really
mm.
is. And I know I'm going off topic. I'm so
No,
sorry.
no, go for it. No, no, this is actually really interesting, and I think it's very beneficial. So go for it.
Yeah, like in the UK, we have something called CAMS, right?
Mm,
Which is like a mental health support for young people. And I got called into one of their school meetings as a member of CAMS. So I went
mm,
in and listened to what the school said, that how they're going to support this young teen who was really struggling with her own mental health, anxiety, depression, low mood. And the school was, what can I say? I've been part of the education system myself, but let's be real here. They washed their hands of that child. They washed
mm,
their hands of that mother who's trying to support her kid and keep her in school. They said, look, I'm sorry, you need to bring your kid in school, otherwise we have to go down the legal route. And where
mm.
does that leave them? Where? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not saying I have the answers, but looking at that, I realized, okay, this is a real issue here,
yeah.
where parents are actually trying to, I mean, the work I do, so many parents are not on board with their children, right?
Mm,
So here we actually had a family who really wanted to help the
mm,
child, understood that mental health is an issue. It's not something in their mind. They're not being over dramatic or lazy. These are the
mm,
words I usually hear to
yeah.
describe them. So, but the school couldn't do anything. So I think this is, and like I said, I don't blame the school. They have a lack of funding, lack of training, and maybe in a lack of, I can't deal with this. It's too
Mm,
much.
mm,
We've already got this huge school and all this data driven,
mm,
performance from Ofsted that we've got to do. I don't have the time, energy to try and look after your kid or this kid that has anxiety and doesn't want
mm.
to come to school. You see what I mean, Jihad? It's
Yeah.
so many layers, so
Yeah.
many layers.
It's quite interesting because I work with teens and young people as well, and I see
Mm,
exactly what you're mentioning. And
right.
schools are unable to do with one individual at a time because they have so many students there, and as you said, so many other things that they need to do, and so focusing on child's mental health, although it's out there, it's advertised and everything, but you find that it's not really happening in schools. And then when I look deeper into it, as we said, there's a lot going on in schools and not just one child, so sometimes it's difficult for them to deal with one child at a time. So I can really relate to that, and I can.
Isn't it, Jihad? It's like a tick box. We've given them reduced timetable, we've given them a school counselor or whatever, and that's it. Can't do anything else.
Yeah, yeah. And as you said, it leaves a lot of young people and their families vulnerable in terms of what do we do. So that work that you do is amazing, and it's coming from experience. As you said, you notice there is a gap there, and that's the best thing, is to find that gap and kind of see how you can help and support that. So I love how you came from a different background, which is education,
Mm.
and then you found the gap, and then you kind of went and decided to do something in that area. So I love that. I'm wondering here, because you mentioned that the young people, they have a lot of them, they have a lot of support and everything in place, but they don't have that self-belief. So I'm wondering why this is. Why do you think this is? Why is that lack of self-belief? What's missing?
From my programs and sessions with teens and families, I think you could kind of summarize it.
Mm,
There seems to be several things. One
mm,
of them is like a disconnect between parents and the children. Either
mm,
that's because parents are not born in the US, UK, the West, and
mm,
they're born, back home in different countries. They have, of course, a different upbringing, different expectations, etc. They parent how they were parented, and they
yeah,
do their best. So this is not about slamming parents at all.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but unfortunately, there is a big divide, right?
Mm,
If you think about it, the child is now growing up in a country with cultures and values that are so different from the parents. I did too. I am the first generation. My parents came over from Pakistan. I was born here and then gone through the whole system. So I get that. I totally
mm,
understand that. So that's one thing. All right.
mm,
The second thing is a lot of comparison. So they compare their teens so much. Either it's between their children, their own family, or it could be even cousins, or it could be their friends' children. You know, if they could get into medical school, if they seem to understand and they pass the UCAT, or which is like a it's like a prerequisite to get into medicine. So a lot of teens come to me and they really want to go for dentistry and medicine, so they talk about that. But how comes they can do it and you didn't do it? What's wrong? I've given so much tuition to you, why can't you do it? And I just recently had this conversation with this young girl, right? She's actually not a teen, she's like 21, and she's completed a degree. She's actually qualified, she's a graduate, but she still wants, sorry, the aeroplane, if you can hear it, she still wants to do dentistry. She wants to go back into education for, what would that, she may get a year off because she's a graduate, so 4 years, and she wants to do that. And I asked her, why is this so important to you? Why do you still want to go ahead and do a whole new degree and become a dentist? Why? And we went back in the sessions and it all came back to that the line that her father said, well, what's wrong with you? Why can't you do it? The other kid, my friend's family have done it. You've gone to a private school all your life. I've given everything to you. Why can't you do it? So, I know this is not everyone, but that's like one typical scenario where it's like, I've done everything for you. So the parent is obviously question, an immigrant, worked very hard, given the best to their children, which is an amazing thing. But unfortunately, it's actually put her where she's like in a prison in her own mind, that she cannot break through. And it's like, I must achieve this so that my dad or whoever it is, caregiver, is pleased with me.
Yeah.
And you can just imagine, Gehad, isn't it? Like you said, you're in this field as well. That as she grows up, what's going to happen? She's going to achieve it, I'm sure. She'll push through it and she'll get it. Maybe she'll achieve it. But then maybe issues of promotion come up. Maybe something about having to compete with someone else. She'll hold back thinking, I can't do it. I'm not that good. I'm not good enough. And you hear these things a lot, right? So in other words, why I'm so excited about working with teens is because obviously I do work with adults too, but I really prioritize teens, is because it doesn't take that long to rewire their thinking and to retrain their patterns of thoughts and their beliefs. It's so much quicker. And it's like, wow, you've just like unblocked them for their life, not just in career, but in terms of their relationship with themselves, their relationships, getting married and having families. And, you see like generational issues, and it's so, it makes me so excited to be able to cut that loop now, fix it now, let them be free, let them be free and live that life that they really, really want to. And maybe they even haven't given themselves permission to dream, So we can see it, can't we, through the generations, how it works. But I know I've gone off topic again, I'm sorry.
No, it's completely fine. It's really interesting things that you're sharing, and it's something that a lot of people can relate to. So the listeners, inshallah, they can relate to that and benefit.
Also, sorry, I know you're going to ask this question, but I remember your question now. You were saying like what's causing it. So one was, the difference in immigrant and, actual raising and the culture. And then number two was the comparison thing. And then I guess, what was it? What was my third one? I was going to think of my third one. I'm thinking, what was it? Oh, this is a little bit dark in the way that there is generally some sort of, I don't know if you need to give a trigger warning, but some sort of, background abuse, problems, issues. And that's just sort of carrying, where the mother, it's generally the mother that I found, as we know, the mental health of the mother directly impacts the mental health of the children, the family. And when she's going through some stress, whether that's her own postnatal depression, whether that's between her and her husband, and there's chaos in the house. But I noticed that really has led to a lot of, sort of self-harm and anxiety, low mood. And
sorry, Samina, I'm just going to add to that, sometimes as well, the parents, if we haven't dealt with childhood matters as well, we carry that with us, and that also impacts on our relationships and our communication and so on, and our mental health, which directly impacts on our children. So I wanted to add that as well.
I think you're absolutely right. And, that's why I love, and I always find this really effective, where we do the inner child work and the younger self work and healing them when they were young and getting to upgrade that child, and parent themselves in the best way possible. And it's really empowering for that teen to do it. And also, I find that a lot of teens, they try to rationalize, oh, but my mum wasn't bad, my
Yeah.
dad wasn't bad, they had so much going on, they couldn't be dealing with what was going on with me. And then unfortunately what happens, and I'm sure you've seen it, but time and time again, those teens who did go through those childhood issues, whatever it was, just being neglected, maybe not hit or anything like that, but they were neglected emotionally. They were just there, like a house
Mm,
plant just there in the corner, and
mm,
that's it. They never got asked what they needed. They never got, it's such a simple thing that Jihad. It came up very recently, but it was this. She went back in time. She was very young. Her and her sister, they're just eating noodles, and I said, "What was going on?" She goes, "I didn't like the noodles," and I said, "Well, why didn't you tell your mum you don't like that flavor? You want a different flavor?" And she goes, "My mum has so much going on. We're really broke, and she's trying to earn money to feed us. I don't want to put this on her." And I said, "Well, you don't get your way all the time to have your flavor, but you could take it in turns, that could happen." I go, "Why didn't you even share it or mention it?" And it's just like, well, I'm just there, I'm just kind of there in the background, and we went deeper, and you can see it's such a simple thing, that she didn't get asked what flavor she wanted. She just put up with it, even though she hated it. It was her sister's favorite, not hers. So such simple things that obviously we tried to, change the ending to that, change the meaning to that event that she had. But I've lost my point now. What I was going to say about that.
that's fine. Yeah, we're talking about the kind of things that lead to individuals not to have the self-belief. And you've mentioned one of them was, it could be traumas and certain things that they've gone through, but also things that they have seen from the parents or behaviors from the parents. So it kind of, emphasizes the importance of healing from any challenges that we've gone through. Because in a lot of cases, and I see it in a lot of the Muslim communities as well, as that we go through challenges, everybody does. And it's great that we have that reliance on Allah. We say, Alhamdulillah, whatever we've gone through is for khair, and that's amazing, right? But also, it's very important to deal with and to heal from whatever we've gone through, because if we don't, it affects us, whether consciously or unconsciously, it is affecting us. And it shows in our behavior, it shows in our communication. Our children pick it up, and we may not even think that they are picking it, but since the mothers, since they are pregnant, and the child is also carrying that, and then once they have the children, they project that in their behavior as well. So we may not even be aware of it, but it's very, very important. And to kind of highlight here is that whatever we have gone through, it's very important that we revisit it and deal with it. And it's important to do this with a professional, because sometimes if we revisit it on our own, it can be very, very traumatic. So neglecting it and pushing it away may serve us a favor for a period of time, but it will
Absolutely.
come back. And that's why it's very important that we deal with it. The earlier, the better. But it doesn't mean if we have it dealt with it for many, many years, is that we just forget it and just move on, because it's still there. We're carrying it.
Still
We
there.
that. So I thought that's quite important to mention. But yeah, coming back to the main point here, it was why the young people, though they have the support and everything, why the lack of self-belief. And you've mentioned 3 points. One of them is that, there could be certain things that they have gone through, abuse or traumas, or any, kind of, your voice doesn't really matter, you don't really matter, as you've mentioned, or the parents have gone through certain things. And what were the other two that you've mentioned as well?
I think it was comparison, like, either comparing to others in the family or in the community,
Yeah.
their friends, and, just the frustration of the father. You could hear it in his voice, isn't it? When this young graduate was going to redo another 5 years, she's going to commit to 5 years. And he said, "What's wrong with you? Why can't you do it? I've given everything to you. I've given you this, a first-class education, extra resources. Why can't you do it?" So it's that, I think that really, it's really haunting. And,
Yeah.
obviously there was a lot of tears for her,
Mm.
but you could see, it's just this pressure, and she just needed to, release that, and not just, release it from her mind, but from her body as well. So
Absolutely.
that memory isn't triggering her again, from the amygdala, and just get rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that also, that points out the and I think I've mentioned it to you when I met you before as well, about the personality work that I do, and how the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was very, very conscious of the fact that we have different personalities, and he put each Sahabi and each companion in the right place based on their personality. So it comes to the comparison, because we do that sometimes, and we don't really mean it. It's that we just look at somebody's like, oh, they're doing really great, because we have that certain things in our mind that being a doctor or being an engineer is great, but other things may not be so great. But the Prophet Muhammad SAW, for example, he appointed Osama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu from the age of 18 to be leader of an army, when there were so many other Sahabas older than him, and they were not given that position. And in comparison to that, Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu, who is very, very well known for his high piety, he wanted a role in the public office, but the Prophet Muhammad sallam denied that, and he put him in da'wah instead, because his personality is right for that place, and someone else's personality is right for another place. Ali radiallahu anhu, for example, he encouraged him to go and become a judge. And Ali radiallahu anhu was very confident about it at the start, and he said, I don't have the skill. He put his hand on his chest and he made dua for him, and he taught him the skill. So it's about placing the right person in the right place. And Ali radiallahu anhu said, since then I have never doubted my judging skills. So it's about understanding your child. It's very important to understand their personality and what roles and duties are suited for them. And instead of comparison, just find out who your child is. What is their personality?
I can share like something. I love that, what you've just said. That's amazing. It's really inspiring. And I can really share a personal story about that. I think I wrote an article a while ago, but and it's like me with my background being very academic and the science, head of science type of thing. When my eldest went into medicine, everyone expected it in a way. There's like, oh well, of course she's going to choose that type of thing, even though I didn't feel that it didn't come from me, and nobody would obviously believe me that. I actually thought she was going to go into more of computer science and that sort of side, because her dad had that sort of background. But anyway, she chose it for herself, and everyone assumed, of course that was going to happen. And then with my middle child is my son, and he's academic but not so strong. So he tried the A-level route. It didn't suit him. And I sat down with him, and he's obviously only 17, and I said, what do you want to do? What do you want to do now? What is this? You've tried this, and I kind of get the feeling you're doing it because you think that's what I want, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I tried. I don't think it's really me. Maybe I'm not just feeling it. I'm not enjoying it. So I said, what do you want to do? And basically he went into his artistic side, because he's a real creative, and he went down, photography, fine art, ice sculpture, all that kind of stuff. And now he's sort of landed in graphic design, and that's what he's doing. And so I could really, really, empathize with parents. Your children are different, and it really is. I could have lost connection with him then if I forced him, because I think he would have done it if I forced him. If I said, "Look, I really want you to do it," and I think he would have listened. But where would that have got me? I would have lost my connection with him. He maybe would have lived with a lot of self-doubt, always feeling that he's not actually doing very well, and not fulfilling that potential in him, which is real creative side. And so now that's what he's done, and he's on that route, and he may not even want to go to university. And I know that's like, culturally, traditionally, that's the route. Everyone does that. That's what you do. You even put yourself in debt, and everyone goes down that route. But I think that entrepreneurship really opened up my eyes and my mind, and I didn't put that on him. He doesn't want to do that. That's great. What do you want to do? Let's do it. And I think he's actually coming along that entrepreneur role, and that's something that he wants to do. Fair enough. And it's I've encouraged that get more skills and monetize your skills. Go for it. But it is important, and like I said, I've seen it in myself, seen it in my families, and I really do try to share that with parents that come to me, because I'll be honest, most parents, most parents, they just want the end result, that their kid got the grades, they went into college, and that's it. They're like, and I guess in a way why I do two things. I do the inner work, but then I also do the coaching so they can get to their goals, because that's my natural role. I've always helped teens reach their goals, right? And now I just have an extra tool to be able to get that done. But parents mostly want that. Not many parents are they're grateful that, like, I remember having a child with eating disorders, and she said, oh my God, my daughter was like a ghost in the house. I couldn't connect with her. She was just around the house, not really living. And now the work that you've done with her, she's like alive.
Wow.
So so the mom was obviously really connected with that, and that was more important to her. But unfortunately, in the same family, the father, it's about hitting goals. It's about what grade did you get? Did you graduate with honors? are you getting into med school, what you're doing? And that, I guess, maybe I can't change that, just with the work I do, but I think I can make a dent into it, into trying. I don't believe it's one or the other. I think you can get both, but there's no point, you've got to do the inner work for the sake of your child, I think. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. And it's been really, really great having these discussions. Mashallah, I don't know how nearly half an hour has passed us discussing this. It's amazing. So thank you for sharing this. And just a reminder before we go for the break, just a reminder to the listeners that we have Samina on the show today, who coaches teens to overcome anxiety and step into fearless confidence. And besides discussing Samina's work today, we will also, inshallah, after the break, we'll be discussing more of, what Samina's own personal story as well, about the inner work that she has done herself to get to that stage and starting her second business as well. But today's show is pre-recorded, so we won't be able to take any calls or questions, but please feel free to text or WhatsApp your thoughts about the show on 0779 481822, or you can send those on Facebook as well. So, Samina, we will be going for a short break and then we'll continue, inshallah, that discussion. And I feel like we need to bring you in the show again because, mashallah, there seems to be quite a lot to discuss. So, Jazakallah khair. Listeners, this is Inspire FM Luton on 105.1. We'll be going for a short break. So, please stay tuned and we'll see you shortly.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Atif Nawaz. Listen to Inspire FM shows in your time by heading over to inspirefm.org or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to the Arise to Success show. We have Samina with us today, who coaches teens to overcome anxiety and step into fearless confidence. Samina works with teens and their families using therapy and coaching so they can have a strong, fearless voice and rock solid self-belief. Besides discussing Samina's work today, which we've done prior to the break, and we'll continue, inshallah, discuss it a bit more, but we'll also be discussing her own personal story, working on her inner work, or doing her own inner work herself and getting to that stage of starting her second business. This is a pre-recorded show, so we will not be able to take any calls or questions, but please feel free to text or WhatsApp your comments about the show on 0779 481822, or you can send those to Facebook as well. Samina, it's been a great discussion before the break about all the work that you do with teens and their families, mashallah, and how important this is in our community and the gaps that there are, and how someone could be, or parents could be, or families could be very, very supportive to the individual. But you've highlighted three main things that can lead to the lack of confidence of individuals, or the lack of self-belief, which are really, really important. Before talking about your own experience, maybe your own personal story about working in your inner work, perhaps if you can just tell us a little bit more about the work that you do. Do you provide more of family support in terms of working with the family all together, or working with teens on their own, working with the family in their own? Is it more individual work or family work together? And you can tell us more about that.
Honestly, like, even if we have to work with the families, it really doesn't help the child, the teen, when you work with them just in isolation. And I think you can see that's true even like from a teacher, school, parent association type of situation. And then obviously with therapy, what would happen is I would work with the team and things are going well. We had an amazing session. I think she was about 13, 14. And she said to me, she goes, Samina, nothing's changed at home. She goes, it's so beautiful. Like, she listened to the audio recording, which is really positive and empowering thoughts. And she loved that. She goes, I love it. I've never heard these words being said to me ever. But she goes, but nothing's changing at home. And, my mom's still very negative. She's still really critical. She's still really stressed out all the time. Rightly so. The mum had lots going on in her life. So this is not about shaming parents at all, but it's just the reality. And, I had to pick up the phone and say, look, can we ever talk? And I had to give her some hard truths. Really not easy to do, but you've got to do it. Okay? You do it for the sake of, actually getting the team to where they need to be. And also for the parent, the ideal is to get them both on the same page so that they can understand each other. Yes, they need space at the beginning. My work is 100% confidential. I will not break that, as part of my insurance and my, when I'm accredited, etc. I have to do that, unless obviously they're going to harm themselves or rob a bank, right? But so that's there. But working with families is really, really important, because at the end of the day, look, is there anyone on the face of the planet that loves that child more than the mom? Isn't, right? I know there's obviously mums who are not emotionally fit to do that, but generally, yes. So getting her on side is really going to help, and obviously I used to do that from day one. And then I started to get really burnt out because, I'd obviously have calls with her, calls with the dad, really trying to get them together. And, it took a lot of time. It was worth it. But I then started to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to roll it out officially and make it like this sort of premium package where I deal with, sessions with the mom, sessions with the dad, and anyone that's in contact with the team. Maybe it's, an uncle, auntie, or older sister, or someone that needs to be on her same wavelength. So she's not triggered again by the past. So I do that now, like sort of officially. I kind of hold myself back, but it's hard not to work with the family. I think it's important. I think that's answering the question that it is important. And I know some parents, some mums really resist. They really resist me, and they don't want to. They're like, it's like they've hired me, and they just want me to fix it, which in a way I can. But of course, it's in terms of long-lasting results. We need the families involved.
Of course, absolutely, because you're an outsider and coming to fix something is not really practical. It's more of a change of behavior that we need to kind of start doing, isn't it? Because if we're still doing the same behaviors and nothing's changing from our side, then of course the team will be impacted, or the one specific individual will be impacted. So it's a teamwork, it's family support, it's everybody working together to support each other, and it's not just to support that one person, but also for you their own self
And
as
I've
well.
noticed there's like a difference between husband and the mother, the father and the mother. There's real difference between them. Of course there are, because they've all got different sort of love languages, attachment styles, all these sort of things. So it is hard work in that respect, but it's worth it. Because we get to the root cause, and then you can get real change.
Absolutely. That's great. And it's great that you're doing work with the whole family because, as you said, working with one individual is great, but it's everyone else as well. So that's actually a really great package. And I love how you developed it, where you found a gap and an issue with, with the young people that you wanted to help them, and then realizing actually, what the family as well. So you're finding these different gaps, and then you're creating a whole package to help the individual and the whole community as well. Because when you help one person, you're helping the whole community. So that's amazing, mashallah. Coming to the inner work, so you've had to do the inner work yourself, and that's what I mentioned earlier as well, is that as parents, if we haven't done our own inner work, that will impact on our children. It will be projected in our behavior as well. So if you can tell us a bit more about that inner work that you had to do yourself.
So many things, and as we get older, we have decades worth of to unpeel. I will call them like layers, taking those layers off. So I had a lot to do for myself, in terms of self-belief, imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough. Who wants to listen to me? Am I really? Even to the point when I was a teacher, I had amazing, outstanding results. Like, 96% of my students would always get the top grades, A star to A or grade 7 to 9. But I still, if I was to be inspected by Ofsted, the inspectors by the government, I would get so nervous. Oh my God, I'd choke. I can't speak. My heart's beating so fast. My voice is all funny. And to the point where the students would also say to me, Miss, just what happened to you? Like, just be yourself. You're so good at this. Like, why are you like? And it's just that, those beliefs in you that you have about, am I actually good enough? Yeah, I've got these results, but I don't feel like I'm an outstanding teacher. I don't feel that. And then likewise with therapy, it's like, who am I to become a hypnotherapist? And who am I to do this and become an entrepreneur? Who wants to listen to me? And all those things, what are my friends going to say? What are my family going to say? And it's true, a lot of them did raise their eyebrows. Like I remember, family members looking at me thinking, why would you do that? Why would you give up such a solid career? Because I had, head of science for so many years, and it was amazing. I was really well loved there at that school, and it was, 2 and 4. It was really nice. Why would you give that up for something truly unknown, where you don't even know about business or advertising, marketing? What do you know about that? And that leads me to the other inner work I had to do is, in terms of my identity, my father, when we were a lot younger, I think 10, 11, 12 I was, when he was a business owner, he had a supermarket. And all I could hear was the stress that my dad was going through, the stress of, pouring money into this business, trying to make it work and not knowing how to make it work. And he kept losing money, robbery, so many things going wrong. And it was just like really stressful. And I think I heard a lot around the dinner table. I'm one of five. So, we sort of sat around and listened to these things. Us Razak, like Razak is my last name. We're not business people. Razaks are not business people. So I kind of had that label stuck onto me as an identity. We are not business people. So, when I did say to my dad, I want to give up my head of science role and I want to do online tuition, he looked at me and was like, are you sure? Like, why would you do that? That's terrible ideas to me. So he really came down on me. And mashallah, I would say that I'm very close to my father. Like I always, took his counsel, took and his opinions. So when he did that, I really had, because I had done the inner work before, but I really had to, stand strong. Say, okay, come on, Samina. Really self-talk myself. You can do this. Try it. You've made istikhara. Allah wouldn't guide you to something that wasn't going to be good for you to do it. And I think, like you say, my personal journey has been for so many years that maybe it started with my own counselling, right? For my own, family issues and my own imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs. Then it started with, joining something called Visionaire. I think you know of that. And the big course that Muhammad al-Sharif, the late Muhammad al-Sharif, had done, and I'm still part of it. But that was amazing, being part of the Discovery family, and really sort of taking my worries, taking it to Allah, and making dua, and asking Him to guide me. Ya Hadi, guide me. Ya Fatah, open up the doors of opportunity. And yes, of course, every time you do this, it gets easier with practice, right? You get less resistance. But every time it's like, okay, you need to talk to yourself, this is going to be fun. reframe any anxious or, nervous thoughts you have as exciting. And there's a lot of research done by Harvard Business School that's absolutely true. Our physiological response is the same. It's just about what we tell ourselves, so so I've done a lot of that. I think it gets easier as you go along. And I've had to do a lot of work in terms of boundaries as well. What are my personal boundaries? Between me, I'm married, I have 3 kids, my boundaries with my husband, my children, and then of course wider family. Am I letting people come in? And I know a lot of my old friends. They look at me because they're still friends with me on Facebook, but they're like, "What is she doing? why is she doing this?" What's going on? Like, why is she become a saleswoman?
But then I'm sure they would be proud of you, mashallah, for all the work that you're doing now.
I think initially, they didn't get it. It didn't suit. And of course, there was a lot of throwback from the community as well. Why are you as a woman going on camera and sharing your personality? Because I am a giggler. I think I've probably giggled a lot of times.
I love that about you. From the first moments I've met you, I can see that in you, mashallah, and I love it.
It's something very natural. I don't have any control over it. It's just part of who I am. But it's accepting that, right? It's accepting that, I have a voice. This is my personality. There's nothing wrong with it. Allah wouldn't give it to me, these skills, this personality, if I wasn't meant to use it for good. Okay? So it's always about that self-talk that I have to myself. And knowing that as long as I'm happy with what I'm doing, Allah is happy with what I'm doing, then alhamdulillah, inshallah, I'm on the right path. And of course, we make mistakes. We do things that maybe are not right, and we have to check ourselves. But that's a journey, isn't it? That is inner work. That's
Absolutely. It's quite interesting because, you said that you're a giggler, you laugh a lot. When I first met you, I love that about you, mashallah. I can see it in you. You can turn something into something really funny. And I just loved it. I was like, wow, because I'm more of a serious person. So can you see how this can be, this is a strength, and sometimes we can see it as a weakness because we don't realize the importance of that strength or the lack of self-belief, as you've mentioned. And that goes along as well with, the strengths that we have as different personalities, and how the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ utilized that strength in the right place. But unfortunately, nowadays, sometimes we see that strength as a weakness, and we don't make use of it. We don't utilize it the right way, the way the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did with the Sahabas. So it's very important that we start to see the positives in things, and not everything is a weakness. I mean, of course, we all have weaknesses. I mean, everything that we have is strengths, but also is to see the strengths that we have as strengths and utilize them the right way. So, for example, with yourself having that funny personality, that's lovely, because then you can connect with people really easily. Like when we've met, I think we were about 12 people, and you stood out because of that personality that you have, mashallah. So,
Gehad. We need to do that meetup again, inshallah. Yeah.
Definitely, inshallah, definitely. I think the previous meetup didn't work out because of the weather. Inshallah, next meetup, inshallah, hopefully will be soon. So mashallah, that strength is very, very important to highlight, and also for parents to notice that in their children and to utilize that, just so that we can follow the method of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And again, coming back to that inner work, because sometimes if we haven't done that inner work ourselves as parents, we find it difficult to even see it in ourselves, let alone see it in others.
Definitely.
So it's very important to do that inner work. And that actually comes to my next question: how important is it to do that inner work? If we neglect it, are we doing ourselves a favor? Are we not doing ourselves a favor? Can we just get on with life neglecting that? What's your input on that?
So a lot of things, like when you said that, I'm thinking, I had two examples, but the first thing I'm thinking, if you don't do the inner work, as parents, I'm talking to the parents now, then you're not having, you will not allow a growth mindset for you, and definitely for your children, right? Because you are going to be completely at odds to them. You won't understand what they're trying to do, and there'll be a problem with boundaries, everything. I was thinking of, I was thinking of this parent and child that I was just dealing with recently, and she is of that opinion where, look, because I offered obviously her to do the inner work with me, and have her subconscious rewiring sessions, do all the sort of coaching as well that she has to do. She's like, no, I don't have time for that. I'm really busy. I've got multiple businesses. I'm fine. I'm fine. Just deal with the child. And then the teen says to me, in very open, she's also an introvert, I know she is, and she it's not normal for her to be so expressive and share feelings, but with all that in mind, she did share with me quite easily. And she said to me, I feel that my mum, I said, yeah, so you connect with your mum, don't you? She goes, no, I feel like my mum, I would love more connection with her. I feel like she's just hiring people to fix me. Whether that's me, therapy coaching, tuition, tutors for different things, just to get me to success. Where actually, I think if my mum would just connect with me and work, have that one-on-one time, that would be great. But how can she do that, Gehad? How can the mum even when I suggested it, obviously, but I'm suggesting it and it's just conscious, isn't it? And she's just thinking, yeah, but I do sit and cuddle with her and I do listen to her. That's great. That's a brilliant first step. But unless she actually does the work, she doesn't realize what's going on and what's actually holding that child back, isn't it? And I know she's had a very sort of challenging life. There's lots of things that are going on in her life, but it's like they don't see themselves as needing the inner work. And unfortunately, we're in that scenario then. I can't force her, right? I'm working with the teen and she's getting better, and inshallah she'll get the grades and everything. So mum will be happy. But have they actually connected on that, where they could actually, their nervous system is in tune. I think it's called attunement, where they're in the same wavelength, like you're saying, and there's real oxytocin and bonding happening. It's not going to happen because she's standing in the way of growth.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And did you say that? I'm not sure if I heard it right. Does she want to get the grace to make mom happy, or does she want it for herself?
Ultimately, it's got to be about the mom.
Yeah. So can you see here?
And obviously we were trying to get what's your best life ever, let's think about your best year, how can we really make it, but it was about the things she wants to do are fine, but it ultimately is for the parent. And I kind of have this rule of thumb myself as an educator as well. I still believe in education. It's not that I'm saying throw that away. I do make a rule that I think as 16-year-olds they should graduate high school. They should complete their GCSEs, give it their all, get the best grades as possible. Why? Because we're living in reality where we need a certain level of education to open up doors. Even if that person is going to become an entrepreneur and do so many different things, it's important. So I kind of have that rule of thumb that I will support the parent when it comes to that level. Whether they go on to do A levels, BTEC, or something else, it's a bit of a grey area. Ideally, 18 would be great for them to cut free from the education system. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I've kind of
absolutely.
100% GCSEs, they've got to do it, and then between 16 and 18 is a little bit grey, but ideally I would love to have something at 18 that they've done it, now they're free to sort of, pursue their interests. What do you think?
I 100% agree with you on that, of course, and doing that at the same time as not neglecting the child's needs and the child's passions and talents as well. Because as you said, we live in a society where education is important, opens a lot of doors for you. If that wasn't the case, if everybody can go and, pursue their talents and everything without having to have education, great. But the fact that we are, I mean, this is how it is in the current society where we have to have that, kind of the foundation really. But it's very important also to not neglect your child's talents at the same time, and making sure that you are developing those talents, whether it is in getting them to do hobbies related to their talents, or, other activities on the side, or anything else. Like, for example, you said about your son, who's very good with creativity.
Yeah.
And education is more about, not much. I mean, there is a bit of creativity, but not to that.
Academic, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. So as long as we are, nurturing that personality as well on the side, so we're doing both, so that we're making sure that the child is as successful as possible in the current time that we're living in.
Gehad, I think that's kind of what you've hit on, and if I think about it, that's in a way my stumbling block. That's where I am trying to break down that barrier. That, look, I get it. You want this and this and this, and like I say, they'll look at me and think, well, look, your daughter's doing medicine, so so that's why I put the post out about my son as well, to give the balance. But that's where we are. It's about trying to look at what's actually really important to you, because like I said, I'll have so many young adults and teens who come to me on my Instagram page personally, DMing me saying, I've got all this pressure, I really want to do well, and they're self-harming and they don't know how to speak to their parents. I said, let me speak to your parents. They can't do it. So they're like, could you not just work with me without them knowing? And obviously I can't. I have to have permission signed off, etc. And so there's a lot there. So if I could get, if that, understanding, because what you just said, what actually is important here, it's the well-being of your child, isn't it? What is the point of them getting the grades and they're totally burnt out, totally broken inside, and then they start to isolate themselves? Because this is what I hear: my teen doesn't come out of, or the young adult doesn't come out of their room, they're always on socials. And you know what I've learned as well, which I know is really weird, but that phone is actually become like their best friend. When you try to take that phone away, I know we're going off topic, but when they do that, it's like you've just completely isolated them then. They don't feel that they can come out of the room. Why? Because when they do, there's a lot of criticism, there's a lot of comparison, there's a lot of, have you done, there's so many questions, and they don't want to go, I don't want to come out of my room because there's so many questions. And I don't know, those questions are like, what's the word? They're like leading towards a trap, leading towards a trap of the teen just feeling like a failure. Okay, I didn't get this done, I didn't do this, and I didn't do that. So that's why they stay indoors, and so that's where we are, and I think that is probably the $1 million sort of question, how to get. And obviously this radio show is really helping, I think, in educating parents that, like you said, try to work on their talents. When you said that, Jihad, I thought, wow, that'd be beautiful if we could get parents to accept that and to realize that. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to mention this as well, is that when we don't, as parents and as a community, not value or give mental health its real sort of position and due and energy and focus, when we don't do that, then actually what the team does is they actually come away from the room. I've had so many that they really feel like, well, then what is this Allah? Why do you want me to pray? Like, I'm praying, nothing's working. And they really fall into that. And unfortunately, then any guidance and goodwill and wisdom that you clearly have as parents they're just cut off from it. There's like a big barrier. And unfortunately, it's like, you didn't understand me, you didn't understand my mental health, you didn't get the help I needed, or you got me the help too late, and therefore you and Allah are like that. I'm just going to be me and my phone.
God.
Then there's, and I feel that that's really happening a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why initially with the child, I really do try to build up their self-worth and their connection to Allah. I said, it's your journey, you and Allah. And mashallah, a lot of them do believe in Allah, as you push them a bit further. And alhamdulillah, that's why I have that unique position. I'm not their Islamic studies teacher, I'm not their mother, their auntie, even their teacher. Like, I'm not looking for any right or wrong answers for you. It really is just about you, connecting you with yourself, and you and Allah. And then I know all good things will happen there when they have that connection, But
I love that, mashallah, because that connection is very important. As said, the young people are lacking that, not because they don't want to, as you said, they do want to, right? And I love how you summarize it there. They say, you and Allah, but me and my phone. That's exactly what is happening now. But then how do we connect them to Allah as well? So that's something, mashallah, that you do. And I feel like, maybe the listeners, they would love to probably get in touch with you, because that, I think what you do is amazing in the community. So could you share, and I've seen in your Instagram as well, you kind of share tips and videos and stuff like that are really beneficial. So could you share with us your Instagram, so just in case somebody would love to benefit from the tips that you provide?
Yeah, that would be really helpful. So it's just at Cloud9 Mindset. I think it's the number 9. Yeah, Cloud number 9 Mindset on Instagram. And then, I guess my name, Samina Rizal, in my Facebook profile, you could catch me there as well. And yeah, I do try to give lots of tips for, tips of anxiety, tips for, how you as the mum can support them, lots of different things. And then, I think recently is just, summer is here, how to help them, and where you have a well-balanced summer. Because, a lot of parents, and I understand, they'll be like, just do something, you should be doing something, but they need some structure, they need some support in that, and then, they could have a goal, right? I mean, it'd be wonderful if you could give them a reading list. Say, you know what, why don't you read one of the personal development books? That would be amazing. But why not do it yourself as the parent? That'd be great.
I'm sorry, I'm having to cut it short here, Samina, but we'll have to bring you on this show again, because this has been amazing. So inshallah, we will provide, another show where we will bring you in. And also, listeners, if you would like to know a bit more about the personality work that I do, please do get in touch with us on 0779481822. It has come to the end of the show, so thank you, listeners. Samina, thank you so much, but I'll definitely have to bring you in the show again, inshallah. Inshallah, until next time, everyone, jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Why not tune in to our live stream at inspirefm.org and follow and subscribe to our social media platforms at Inspire FM Luton.